All right, welcome to Deposit That. I'm your co-host Malik. This is your host Jeff. We are here with
GREG MORGA.
How you doing, Greg?
Man?
How you doing
How
today?
are you?
Nice to meet
What's
you,
going on?
Greg.
Thanks for having
Did I
me.
ever tell you the story how I actually own GregMorga.com? I actually own his
Already
domain.
3 seconds in. Here we go. Let's go.
I told him I'd lease it back to him. But there's no buying it because you have to earn the right to have that domain.
You got to
So,
deposit that check to
That's
get your
it.
It's a
name
20-year investment for him, and I'll get my name back one day.
I was thinking more 10. We'll figure it out.
10? All right.
Tell us about yourself and your journey. Who is Greg Morga?
Man, you got 4 hours? No. So I'm just a normal guy that grew up on the Jersey Shore.
No one's ever called you normal before. Don't lie.
No, definitely not. If I thought I would be standing here like doing mortgages and real estate, 15 years ago, my old self would have laughed at me. I was, I thought I was going to be a musician. I was in bands and stuff all out through high school, college, singing stuff. Recently, just within the last decade, my whole life kind of changed because of personal stuff, right? And I got into mortgages in 2017, and just through trials, tribulations, learning the scope, really getting invested into what you want to do, right? 10 years almost later, I got my own branch and with 2 partners of mine, closing a good amount of volume right now. Last few years, I know it's been tough for people. Fortunately for us, it's been pretty good and steady. It's only getting better, and I'm just happy to be here, man. Just happy to keep learning.
What separates yourself from a lot of other people in the mortgage business? To your belief?
Wow, it's a tough one. I think a couple of things. I think, my personal life, I went through a couple of things back in the, 10 years ago that I really think taught me to be humble, right? Told you that, that actions have consequences, but as long as you learn from them and grow from them, they could be a blessing. I think that really sets me apart. Not to say that other people haven't had struggles, but I definitely thought I was a lost cause 10 years ago. I think that separates me because I'm just very, very grateful for where I'm at, and I don't forget where I came from. Other things that separate me, I would say, is that I take a very educational approach because I thought I was going to be a teacher. I wanted to be a professor. So I was studying all throughout college in my 20s. And a big thing for me is my clients learn everything about what they need to know, but on a more, I would say, in-depth way, right? So I think that separates me because I really do believe knowledge is power. I think that's more important than anything, especially when you're making a big decision like buying real estate and signing one of the biggest loans that you can in your life. I think knowing what you're doing and the why behind it is big. And I think another thing that separates me is that my willingness to always never be content, I guess is the way to say it. Of course be grateful, but always strive for more. Never give up, always strive for better has been my motif. And I think when you really contemplate that and you use that every single day, you can always be better, you can always keep growing. And although I'll never be content, I'll always be grateful. I think that separates me.
So let me ask you this: what inspired that ideology of you wanting and knowing that, hey, being grateful, wanting to know knowledge, wanting to pass down knowledge? What inspired that thought process?
So I'll get a little deep with that. So I was raised with the perfect childhood, man. I was an only child. My father owns his own business.
Pardon me, did you say that's a perfect childhood as an only kid?
No. Yeah, sometimes. There's definitely pros and
entitled
cons.
to their own opinion.
Yeah. Well, pros and cons, man. So, my dad was doing very, very well when I was growing up. My mom was a teacher. They gave me everything that I wanted, right? Had tons of friends, right? Never really struggled with much, right? Was good in sports, good in school, right? Went to a private school. My parents really gave me like the best life I think you can imagine. And although I appreciate that for them, I really never had to work for anything, right? Everything, I don't want to say it was handed to me, but there wasn't any strife with what I wanted.
No hardship.
Right? There was no hardship. Because of that, I always grew up in my head that I felt like I didn't deserve anything because I felt like I didn't gain anything myself. So my entire life, from my teens up to now, I always had this vision that I wanted to start something from the ground up where I had no help, and I wanted to build it to my own organic thing, right? So at first, I thought being in a band was that, right? Like playing music, touring, starting a band from the beginning, getting signed to a record label, making that be your life. I thought, and that was my passion for a while. Turned out I didn't really like it that much once I got to the nitty-gritty of it. Then when I was going to school, I was still, keep in mind, I was still in high school, doing very well, going to school, thought I was going to be either like a lawyer or a professor, went to college. And while I was doing that, I started developing, because my friends were playing, I developed a really big passion for poker, like the card game, right? Yeah. At first it was just a hobby, and then it became a passion, and then it became a lifestyle. And this all happened throughout my college. So I went from thinking I was going to be a professor, I was going to write a dissertation on Middle Eastern politics. That was my passion in school. And then all of a sudden I dropped out of my master's and I was going to pursue like a poker career, right? Parents were not pumped about that. But again, it was under that idea of starting something from the beginning, because no one taught me anything with poker, of course, right? You got to learn it with your own money, and building a career out of something that I get from the beginning. Well, at first I did really well, but then I didn't. But I wouldn't stop. Right, I would not stop. I kept pushing the envelope. Right.
I think also deep down the belief in yourself too. Like regardless of the hole you dig, you know that you'd be able to get out of it.
Correct. That's exactly to a fault. Because I had, who's now my wife, right, my girlfriend of years, who I was also starting to affect her, because I was starting to use our money, right, losing that money, lying to this person, borrowing money from the wrong people, if you know what I mean, right? Continually getting out of it and then doing it again. Then my parents would, I'm going on cliff notes because this could be 3 hours, right? But parents bailing me out of it, right? That was the worst thing they could have done for me, because then I felt like I had no consequences still. I was that only child that had everything handed to him, that had no consequences.
So it brought you back to square one, even deeper this time.
Right. Now this lasted over 10 years. And then eventually, I went too far. I got too far deep. Parents said, we're done. My wife said, my girlfriend at the time said, she's done, right? And then all of a sudden, I ended up like at my friend's house on a couch with nobody talking to me, no money, right? And I had to file bankruptcy, all for gambling, And it was a very dark time in my life. And I was written off. You know that phrase, written off?
Yep.
Family. Oh yeah, he was a great kid, but he just went the wrong path.
Talent with the waist.
Yeah, friends started saying it, right? And then just by the grace of God, I actually ironically met my entrance into the mortgage industry from poker. And something just struck a chord. I just saw people, I'll never forget he's actually my partner now, but back then I was working at the front desk as an like an admin, which pretty much just meant someone's bitch. Like getting pizza for the guys, setting up the meetings, taking phone calls, right, all that horseshit. And I'll never forget, this is literally like I'm in the midst of my bankruptcy. I have no money. My car's broken down. I mean, you name it, right? Car's blowing up every single time I'm driving because, it just doesn't work, but I have no money. Right. And a guy comes up to me. His name's Steve. And he's like, hey, man, can you do me a favor? He's like walking in. And I was like, yeah, sure. And he's like, can you look up, this is when the Cavaliers were in the finals for the NBA.
Oh. And
he's like, can you look up how far Cleveland is from here? I was like, sure, and I Googled it. I think it was like 11 hours. I was like, yeah, it's 11 hours. He's like, all right, what time is it? Like 8:30? Because it was early. I was like, yeah. He's like, can you look up tickets for the Cavaliers game and see how much they were? I was like, okay. So I'm Googling it, right? And it's like, I'm like, dude, they're like $1,500 a ticket. He's like, oh, no, not back then. Like, buying the front. I was like, okay. And it was like $6,500. He's like, oh, I think I'm going to take my son as a surprise. And then he just walked away. And I remember being like, all right, whatever that guy's doing, I want to do. And that literal moment.
That was the defining moment.
That second, I was tunnel vision, all in on mortgages. So, from that moment.
To build off of what you just said, would you say that you're a self-motivated person, or you seek that motivation outside source?
I say a little bit of both. I'm definitely self-motivated, right? Because remember, all my trials and tribulations and all my successes have come from that idea that I wanted to start something organically from the beginning and bring it up, be that success story that started, his own thing, right? But I do get, inspiration from everything. I mean, I was just telling Jeff when I'm here, like looking out here, I got inspiration here. We were just talking about this, right? We were just talking about, a really good thing in any type of business is having different perspectives. And I think that's more, not just talking to different people, but having different scenes, right? Like this scenic view is completely different than what I have back in the suburbs in Jersey.
What you see every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's what you see every day. And I think just being open-minded to a lot of things creates inspiration. So I'd say a little bit of both.
One thing that, just so you know, because there's obviously some history here, when I first met Greg, I believe he was coming off of making 1.2 something million that year on a W-2. And one thing that I wanted to until I tried to do it at 24 was try and make $1 million in the mortgage business. And I think I made $600,000 at 24. And on the last day of the year, December 31st, I said, I know I could make $1 million plus, right, in a year on a W-2 in this business.
Right.
I am consciously choosing not to, because I'm never doing this again, because I knew what it took to make $600,000. Now again, I was 24. It was a whole different time, world. Property values were smaller.
Right.
Everything, it was all relative to the time. But making $600,000 back then was making like $2 or $3 million in today's market on a W-2, putting it into perspective, right? So what I admired about him was he had accomplished something that I had never done. Forget about the unlevel playing field and different market conditions. He has a W-2 that showed over $1 million a year. I don't, right? So I'm like, no one else is doing this and this now. And not only that, this guy is going to be able to survive what's coming, and it's my responsibility as a man to give him the best chance, to teach him where I made mistakes. Even though we're close to the same age, I started in 2008. He started in 2018.
Right.
So those 10 years of experience in the business allowed me to give him perspective and real life examples and scenarios that no one else was going to share with him to the levels that I knew I could share with him.
So, what would be some of the challenges that you had within this process of being a W-2 type of guy and seeing that this is your lane, this is how you're gonna make your million? What was some of the challenges that you faced in that period of 2018? That's a rough year.
Well, honestly, most of my, I don't know the word, I guess problems, you would say, was really personal, more than business. There's just something where when you hit rock bottom, it's actually a blessing, man, because nothing phases you anymore. Nothing freaks me out. You know, everyone talks about the outside forces affecting the market, like the market affects your business, right? Rates affect your business, especially in mortgages. What's going on with the elections? What's going on with the economy? Inventory? I mean, you name it, right? And I just always looked at that as excuses. Like my motif is that you either want it or you don't. So you can either look for reasons why you're not going to be successful, or you see those reasons that you see those as obstacles, so you say, I'm going to jump fucking through it. I'm going to find a way to get through it because I'm not taking no for an answer. I'm going to be successful. And that tunnel vision, man, like when you're locked in, nothing can stop you in life, man. You know, I mean, you got to remember, thousands of years ago, right, people built pyramids. People built transportation devices.
With no resources.
No Google,
Zero.
no phones. Right? Why the fuck can't I get mortgages? Because the rates are high, because everyone wants a house. There's always people that are going to want a house. I got to find those people. And if it takes me a little bit harder to find those people or find those resources, just do it, man. Just work harder. Just work harder.
One thing I've always admired about you is your ability to connect with people and be likable and have people almost instantaneously send you business. And obviously I know you're competitive and you want to keep reaching for the stars and not being content. What do you think allows you to connect to people on that level so quickly in order for them to trust you and give you opportunities to close deals?
Because I've been there. You know? I've been there, man. I've been a buyer that's buying a house with, you know, almost no money, freaking out about the payments, trying to make it work for their family because, you know, as a man too, you want to be a provider naturally, right? I've been there. I've also been at times where I've had tons of money and I'm trying to buy an investment property and it's more about the cash flow and the ROI, so I can relate to people for different circumstances. I think that helps me a lot. Again, it's having different perspectives, right? So I think that helps. Being a people person, I think, is very, very, very undervalued these days. I think that has a little bit to do with just our times with technology and how fast it's grown. But I do also think that the pandemic kind of took that away a little bit. You know, we kind of had an excuse, especially in the real estate industry, to start taking the humanistic approach out of it. You know, doing Zoom calls instead of meeting people face to face. Right. I'm not going to say his name, but somebody even said, like, when I was coming to this podcast, why don't you just do it over Zoom so you don't have to travel? And I said, you just don't get it, man.
Yeah,
like,
you don't.
It's different.
You don't get it. You gotta come here, brother. What's wrong with you, man?
They can't get on unless they come here. So
You can't get on unless you know somebody here.
I've turned down people that have asked to be on the podcast. They're like, "Oh yeah, I'm in Canada." I'm like, "Okay, no."
Listen,
like, the integrity deposit that is in person right here.
I just
Y'all better
don't.
respect
Yeah.
that. You gotta respect us.
Yeah. So, a couple of
Greg?
things. Yeah. What's up?
think this is Jeff's favorite point of the podcast.
Okay,
This is the
let's do
point
it.
where we switch it up on you, brother. This is
right.
the point where the anti-fragile questions come, where they're a bit more intense. We're trying to get that inside you, brother.
Okay.
So
He's sweating, but it's only because it's hot out.
yeah, it's only
dude.
94 out here right
dude.
now.
Perfect timing to wear a gray shirt. Let's go.
My first question right now would be: do you believe that you have a responsibility with your wealth? Like with that wealth that you once accumulated and the wealth that's gone, all your scenario, do you feel like it's a responsibility with that wealth?
Absolutely. For my family, for my son, for my wife, for everyone that stuck with me when I was a real piece of shit. And, you know, I do feel a responsibility for that. I do want to give back. I always do when I can. And I feel like I have a responsibility to have a fruitful life, but also make sure that the people that are close to me have that ability to have a safety net. Now, I would never want to give my son enough wealth that he didn't earn. He's got to learn that. He's got to learn how to earn it, but I'll always make sure he's taken care of. And with any future kids, if you know what I mean, coming.
Uh-oh.
You know,
Is that you dropping a hint?
Are we not getting?
Not yet.
Oh.
Not yet. Work in progress.
I'm just happy you're getting laid. You know?
Every second counts.
So let me ask you this. So we obviously wear our brand, right? Anti-fragile. What does anti-fragile mean to you?
No excuses. No excuses. Keeping emotions out of it when the time is right, you know? We've had our fights, right? But we kept the game going, right? You know? We'll fight
I
again.
think that's the test of like a true friendship and relationship, right? Like everyone can show up when it's easy, fun, light, and there are times where either things happen by chance, by choice, right? Or by blindside hit. And it's the real ones that stick through it and like, all right, yeah, we both didn't expect this to happen. Or you know what, you were acting out of character today, or I fucked up today. And being able to shake hands, wake up the next day and move forward and keep the game going. I think people lack that today. Everything's personal, everything's an attack. People feel like they're trying to keep up or be someone like they're not. If you notice, like I always say, hey, I don't have experience in this. Like this isn't the right thing, or this isn't my lane. I say that because I know who I am. I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm great at, and I know what I suck at, right?
Right.
But I don't hide that. I don't pretend like I'm great at something I suck at. I find someone that's great at what I suck at, and I bring them into my world.
He has
Whether
no
they
problem.
stay or not, that's up to them. You know,
Now,
but I
and I'll
think-
give you credit for that too, Jeff. You do have this ability to find somebody's little thing that they're good at that you're not. And you like, hey, come over here. Let me holler at you real quick. And you give people the opportunity to, like I said in the last episode, you shine a light on this weird dim area that they don't know is a huge effect. Like I kid you not, you do it to me all the time, and it pisses me off because I wish I found you sooner. That's the only reason why.
you wouldn't have been ready.
You know what? I agree with that.
But
I
you
agree
gotta
with
change
that.
that.
So back to you, Greg. How do you respond to criticism in those spaces that you occupy?
I fucking love it. I love criticism. I always want to be better. I don't like when people tell me I'm perfect at everything. I want to get better and I want to hear different perspectives. And even if I might not agree with it all the time, that's okay. I don't know why people aren't open to criticism, right? Now, if it's coming from a bad place, you should have the intuition and the knowledge to know when it's coming from a bad place. But when you know it's coming from a good place, they're only looking out for you. And I appreciate when people have the balls to tell you the truth.
Right.
You know? So I love
believe
it.
I believe it.
Give me a criticism right now.
Criticism right now.
I look too good. I know. Can't stop it.
It's the fucking hair. It's the fucking hair. So it's actually funny that it's ironic that you mentioned people, because I would like to know how in the field that you in, you stay connected to people with such different backgrounds or different motives in your field. So how do you stay connected to that core group of people that you want to influence?
All right. When you say core people, you mean like clients, or you mean like Rolodex, or
I would say both.
family?
I would say both. And matter of fact, bring in the family too.
Bring in the family.
How would you stay connected to those people?
So, I mean, I'm just always me, man. Like, you know, I mean, yes, my family knows about my success, right? My friends know about my success, but that doesn't mean I have to change anyone that made me GREG MORGA, you know? So I just keep that, you know, separate. I keep my success separate for who I am at my core. I would say with clients, it's just being empathetic and answering them and making sure that they're taken care of and making sure that I'm in their best interest, and I tell them the why behind everything.
Keep
right?
going.
And then for like my referral sources, my you know, my buddies, like my coaches and everything like that, just always being present with them, man. And you know, being present doesn't mean you have to talk to them every single day, But when you can talk to them, you do. You see how they're doing. It's not just about business. It could be about life too. You know, how many times have we talked about bullshit and life and everything? Right? It doesn't always have to be about how did you get that mortgage or how you doing with your business, Jeff. You know, it's just about
It's all
being
relevant.
a human.
It's very transactional, superficial. Like if you're not going to go below the surface, there's really nothing
Organic.
there.
Organic.
I have a question for both of you now. So, what changes have you seen in Greg over the years, and what changes have you seen in Jeff over the years?
I'll take this one first.
Yeah.
Go for it. I'll take this
I
one
need,
first.
to, I need to let him think about this, and I already know.
I
So
got mine already.
I knew that I identified Greg very early on because I was, and there's still parts of me that are very much so like Greg, being new in the business, trying to prove myself, on the come up, right? Understanding there's still a piece of ego involved, and also maybe a shift in like reality of how I perceive something versus how everyone perceives me. So that's where I knew I could try and make the biggest impact on Greg. And one thing that Greg will tell you is everything I've told him was in his best interest. I also knew, being that we had very similar traits, where I made mistakes early on, you've heard me say this, is Greg was not ready for me, and Greg needs to trust Greg. And even if I tell Greg, don't go over there, you're going to fall through the floor, Greg's going to walk over there, fall through the floor, break his arm, get up and be like, dude, you were right, I should have listened to you sooner, right? So I think the biggest thing that I've seen with Greg is not only his growth in the mortgage business and his ability, I knew he was going to make it and survive and figure out a way regardless. Probably it was the biggest impact that I believe I had on him and that he was receptive to was being a great father to his son and really focusing on the value his family would bring and understanding that all the mortgage business, all that stuff, everything can get taken away. But if he comes home to a house where his family's not adequately given the right attention and presence, right? Attention and presence, he can make all the money in the world. He's just a jerk off, right? So his priorities, while they were right to put food on the table for his family, his real goals were at home because he had a 1-year-old at the time, almost 1-year-old, almost 2-year-old, almost 3-year-old, right? That was looking up at him, that needed daddy, that needed daddy to be home. So I didn't want him to miss that window of opportunity that you never get back with your firstborn son. So that's where I've seen the biggest shift is like going on vacations with his son, posting pictures with his son, loving his son, and expressing to me how much enjoyment and fulfillment he had from having those experiences with his son.
It's beautiful.
And I still say son. Remember when you taught me that?
He used to refer to him as a kid. I'm like, dude, I call you my fucking kid. You're my kid. You know how many kids I got? If I got one
Just
son.
kid?
I used to say my kid, I gotta be home for my kid, and then one day he was like, it's your son. Like it hit me a little bit, like struck a chord, and it's like
yours.
so much more powerful. And I have never said kid ever, man. And like that really, like little things like that open up the perspective, like I always say, like perspective. So yeah, so you know, I hired him for, I don't want to say hire, but I met you to learn more about mortgages and everything. And the
You
biggest
asked me if I
piece
had like
of
an
these-
OnlyFans account. I'm like, dude, just fucking Zell me. Like, OnlyFans? What the fuck is this? OnlyFans?
We don't talk about Zell. No. No, but the biggest
He
piece of
does
advice
have
he
an
gave
OnlyFans
me.
account. That's the funny part.
Oh my god. Deposit
Called
that.
QB. Oh, deposit that. Oh, now we're on to something.
Deposit that on OnlyFans.
This
Yeah.
just got super interesting.
Secretly.
Yeah.
No.
Hey now.
With an S as a money sign as an S.
Yeah, but biggest thing that the biggest piece of advice wasn't even mortgages. It was life. You know, and all right, the thing that changed about you, Jeff, you are so much more calmer, dude, than when I first met you. I mean, he still probably says "fuck you" to a lot of people, but like when I first met him, it was "fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you." You know, like aggression, all about it, passionate. But I've definitely seen you are, and I don't even think it was a bad thing that you were like that, man, because I feel that too. But you are definitely a more calm with that. I've seen that, and I know that you've been doing a lot of therapies and stuff like that, like for mental, and I definitely see that, like your acumen's definitely been a lot more reserved, and I like that, man. It's good.
Yeah, look, I think there's a time and place for everything, and I think the reality of it is no one knows when you're on the balls of your ass, at least with me. No one knows whether I have $1 in my account or $2 million in my account, right? No one knows the lawsuits I'm involved in, the people I'm suing, the partners that fucked up, or choices that I made that came back to bite me in the butt, right? So I think when we had met, at least coming out of it early on or even in the thick of it, there were plenty of lawsuits going on, of which
Oh my God.
I had no control of the outcome or even causing, right, coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of my days are a fight for my life, right?
Yep.
When I say a fight for my life, it's not like, oh, if I don't do this thing, I'm going to die.
Right.
But I put that pressure on myself, like, I have big goals, dreams, and aspirations, and I can't take my foot off the gas, right? Also, with that being said, you never know the duration of coming out of one experience or moment to another. So I could have just been an all-out, I could have gotten jumped. I just fought 3 dudes, right? Got stabbed. You call me and ask me a question, and you're getting the carryover
of course,
of a unfair fight I just got
Yep.
out of. Now, that could be business, that could be physical, that could be related to personal, home, family life, all these things. And I think why I spent so much money and resources in my own time consciously to make myself better was because I didn't like that I lived in that reactive fuck you force phase.
Yep.
Right.
Phase, right? I wanted, and not that I was wrong, how people perceived my reaction was their perception, which somehow came back to being wrong because we didn't see a CEO act like this before. We never saw somebody of this nature or title act like this before, right? Everyone's supposed to be cool, calm, collected, well-spoken. Like, that's not me.
Right.
Can I pretend to be that deep down? Yeah, but take all my income away from me, put myself in a custody battle after I lost multiple 6 figures in ventures with partners that robbed from me, right?
Yeah.
Put yourself in that position. Like, you're stressed out because you think you're not making enough money on a W-2 and you're paid every 2 weeks.
Yep.
All while self-funding technology ventures that took every ounce of my resources to even get to the stage that they were at, right? So everything's relative, and people don't know most of these things because it's not their business, right?
You motherfuckers.
Right?
You
So,
know who you are.
and that's why I say, like, the more the pressure's on, the more intensity heats up, and as things heat up, things begin to boil. All it takes is that one, oh, now all of a sudden the water's flowing out of the pot on the stove.
I've been there,
Now
man.
your smoke alarm's
Yep.
going off, right?
Right.
So again, it's our it's my responsibility. I say our. It's my responsibility to myself and my son, and people that I care about, to always be the best version of myself. And that's why I make that investment in all the things that I do to give myself the best chance to be the best version of myself. And that also comes with age and experience, and really being able to put in the perspective of, like, while I have all these pressures, stresses, and all that, I know I'll always be good. I know things will always work out in my favor because I do the right thing. And I have the ability to see my son whenever I want, do whatever I want with my son, any time of the day. And, like, to me, that's what's most important. So as long as my son's good, him and I are spending time together, doing things and creating experiences, all the rest of the other bullshit, it can come and go.
Yep.
Come
And
today,
that's
going
the,
tomorrow.
that's the reality of it.
Absolutely.
Hell
So my last question, Jeff. Not Jeff, Greg. My last
You
question,
see I
Greg.
fucking look like him now, dude? Now, dude, me and your co-host.
Age.
It's the bear.
Yeah, it's the white factor. I know. We all look like. I know.
And so my last question.
Dude, he's Jewish. I'm not Jewish.
Bro, you're Italian.
He wishes he was Italian.
I know.
Yeah, I
He
know.
thought he was.
My whole life's a lie. That's another story.
Your DNA and me was wrong.
Yeah.
So my last question to you, Greg, and I actually curated this question through Jeff's question in our last episode. What legacy do you want to leave behind? What does that legacy look like to you?
Wow, that's deep. I gotta think about
Anti-fragile,
that one, man.
Anti-fragile, man. Take your time.
Okay, so when you say legacy, like financial or just in general?
However you take
Like,
legacy.
what do you want to be remembered as?
Yeah. Who's your?
When you die, what do you want people to know you as?
That I was the best father that I could possibly be, number one, right? I would say my legacy is just to have, my family be just as motivated in fulfillment, right? Not just money and success, right? There's plenty of people that are successful, but they're not happy, right? I would just want my, I guess you call it kin, or whoever's after me, right, to just embrace that, never give up, always strive for better. But whatever that better is what you define, right? Other people telling you what that better is, they're not you. They don't know where you came from. They don't know what you've been through. They don't know what you like, what you don't like, what you've wanted, what you don't care about, right? So I would just want my legacy to show other people that you can really do whatever you set your mind to, right? As long as you work for it and you find out what your why is. I found my why through something that I didn't even know existed 8 years ago, as in mortgages. But I knew it at that moment when I fell in love with it. And when you love your job and you love what you do, and you love the family that you have, and you're happy and with the people that you grow up with, right? Anything's possible. So I would say to my son and my daughter and whoever's in the future.
Is this the
right?
deposit that right now? Usually I cue you up for that, but you go ahead. This is his deposit that he wants you to
I would
leave
just-
this episode with this one thing.
Yeah, I would just say, you know,
Great.
You must have watched a couple.
He did. He did. He did.
you
Stealing
my,
our thunder.
I don't want my family, no matter what
Steal our
I give
thunder.
to them, to feel like that you don't deserve anything. You got to earn it, and I would just want them to have the right virtues with that associated with that, so that if the money's gone one day, it doesn't mean your life's over, right? If something comes up, it doesn't mean your life's over.
So
Like fight for your life.
We normally do intro songs, and I made a mistake of not playing the intro song, but as you were talking,
Here. Yeah, pretty much. Keep going. Yeah,
That's that Jeezy. Keep
That's
going.
it.
like, no matter where you're at,
Put that at
rock
the bottom.
bottom,
Yeah.
you know, keep going.
Keep going.
Regardless of where you are, keep moving forward.
It doesn't have to be complicated, man. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Hey, well, Greg, we appreciate you coming for us.
Hell yeah.
We appreciate you having this conversation. Thank
sure.
you for opening up.
Yeah,
You know,
man.
Anti-Fragile series.
Of course,
Thank
brother.
you, man.
Yeah, you got it, man.
If the anti ever falls off, please throw it out. You're not allowed to walk around with fragile on your chest.
Absolutely not, man.